So last week we went over the definition essay and I kind of explained the outlining aspect of it, and then we kind of wrote an introduction together, and I kind of told you, right, to kind of challenge yourself and try doing it in a narrative format. And I did underline my thesis for you, so I'm just going to read it once again. In my philosophy class, which focused on death, we had many discussions in which we looked at the term death through multiple perceptions. Some peers argue that life is linear, and when we die, that is the end of it. However, others argue that in fact, death is a term which encompasses many definitions. So always remember that you do want to come to this at the end of your thesis introduction. You always want to tell us either that it is going to encompass many definitions. If you are not telling us that it encompasses many definitions, but you're telling us your own version of those definitions, you can also list them. And if you give us your own three definitions, it should look something like that. And you end your thesis, you end your introduction by telling the reader, my definition means this, this, and this. This is assuming that you are doing three body paragraphs. If you're doing more than three, then it's the same process. So this means you'll have four body paragraphs. And we kind of went over how to brainstorm for body paragraphs as well. We said, one body paragraph could actually talk about the term. Another body paragraph could focus with death within cultures, specifically only picking one culture to stick to so that the reader doesn't get too confused and you as a writer does not get overly tired or confused also writing the essay. Another paragraph would be an against perspective. So this is, saying like death is like the end of it. And you can talk about how people say there's nothing after death, so the linear definition. And number four being transcending rebirth, reincarnation. And five, a personal example. So again, you don't have to have five paragraphs for your body. If you do, that's fine. One of those paragraphs should definitely be a personal example. So make sure that you do have that in there. I also want to talk about, before I talk about the conclusion, I want to kind of talk about, and I should do this in another color because you can't really see that one. I want to talk about words not to use for this essay because they won't be effective. The first ones being I believe. I think I actually misspelled that. Let me rewrite that. There we go. So a lot of you may have learned to write an effective conclusion, body paragraph, introduction by using the statement I believe. And then you go on to proceed. If I was, again, going back to the example I'm using with death, so I believe death encompasses, I'm just going to abbreviate that, many, I should actually add in here the term. Okay, so if I wrote down the sentence, I believe the term death encompasses many definitions. We have here this I that is giving us kind of your own personal opinion, but it's also weakening this part of the statement. It doesn't sound as effective or strong if you literally just delete the I believe and you continue just by saying the term death encompasses many definitions. That's a much clearer, much effective sentence. Think of this as a lawyer, right? A lawyer is not going to say in front of the judge, I believe my client is innocent, because then at that point, the judge is going to say, what do you mean you believe your client is innocent, right? Like the lawyer is the one defending you, so the lawyer should know that you are innocent, and his or her or their response should be, my client is innocent. So just think of it always in those terms. You always want to sound as direct and as effective as possible. And the same thing goes for words like might and probably. I want you to get in the habit of not using words like these, because you're not sounding very affirmative on your position on what the term or any argument should be, right? So again, don't use words like might or probably. And then I also want to touch on the difference between, remember that in this essay, your purpose is to tell us this is what this term means. However, it has multiple meanings, right? So this is the main focus of this definition essay. You're telling us of a specific term and what it means. However, the term could have multiple purposes according to, religion, cultures, etc. Some of you are phrasing your definition essay more as an argument. So just be aware of that. Do not get those two confused. And if you are writing an argument essay, if you are asking questions like, how do we move forward? What can we do? To solve this issue? If you're using words like a factor to this issue, also, is that, and then you go on, make sure that it's okay if you use the word factor, but make sure you're not sounding like if you're arguing a specific term. So I guess I should be a little bit more clear. I'm going to give an example. I'm going to turn death into an argument by saying, let me see, give me a second to think here. Okay, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. Some of you created really good, like, first two lines in introductions by saying, like, this term has changed over time, things like that. But then once you got into your thesis, you changed the whole factor, and some of you went ahead and just like said, again, this is my term, right? Death brings sadness, depression, and anxiety for those who have lost loved ones. So this right away tells me that now we're either moving into an argument essay or a research essay where you're going to prove that death indeed does bring this sadness, depression, and anxiety to those who have lost, loved ones. Um, so again, if you compare it with what I was asking, how do we move forward from this issue, or what can we do to solve this issue and not have these things? And then once some of you started talking in body paragraphs, like a factor to this issue is that, and a factor being either like sadness, depression, or anxiety. So just make sure that you're aware, again, that you do want to have a definition essay focusing on the multiple meanings of a term that you're using. And for your conclusion, I know some of you struggle a lot with like how do we end an essay in general. A good rule of thumb is literally just saying therefore. Literally, you can just say therefore the term, in this case, death is viewed as, and then I can just continue, period. I can just have the sentence be 1 to 2 sentences. You don't need a full paragraph. I'm using the word therefore here. Actually, let me use a different color for this. I'm using the word therefore to end and close my conclusion because therefore is a word that signifies that I already proved everything beforehand of why my term is viewed as these multiple things, and I am correct. So therefore the term is viewed as blank, 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 period. And it could just literally end in that manner. Um, so, don't make things complicated for yourself. I know some of you struggle with writing conclusions and you feel like you're repeating yourself. This way you're more direct and you just close your essay. also think about it as a lawyer, right? Once they kind of give you all the information of why their client is innocent, they will literally close with, therefore, my client is innocent, because they already said everything they had to say. So, yeah, again, if you do have any questions, please feel free to email me. I always get back to y'all. I am writing my email here in case, I don't know, in case you haven't seen it on the syllabus. So yeah, shoot me an email if you do have any questions or issues, and I will get back to you. Um, have a good week. Yeah.